man of purpose does not chase, he attracts. Not because he is idle, not because he is arrogant, but because he is rooted. In a world that rewards the loudest voice, the flashiest look, the fastest response, a man of purpose is still. Still like the mountain that does not bend to the wind, but stands and watches the storm pass. Because what is chasing, really? It is fear disguised as ambition. It is lack dressed up as hustle. It is the illusion that what you need is outside of you. Confucius once said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." So the man of purpose begins his day not with urgency, but with clarity. He rises before the sun not to rush into battle, but to return to center, to remember who he is before the world tries to tell him otherwise. He moves with rhythm, not reaction. He speaks with intent, not impulse. He acts with patience, not panic. You see, the man of purpose understands something most do not. Success is not something you run after. It is something you align with. Like gravity, what you are pulls what belongs to you. Confidence is not noise. It is the quiet knowing that you need not prove yourself, that you do not shout at the world to get what you deserve. You build it in silence and let the results echo. If patience is not waiting, it is preparation. It is the disciplined stillness that comes from knowing your time will come, that your moment is not determined by luck, but by readiness and intentionality. It is your compass. It is what keeps your feet on solid ground when the world is shifting. It is what separates the wanderer from the warrior. Think of men like Nelson Mandela, 27 years behind bars, 27, but not one moment wasted. He used solitude as a forge. He came out not bitter, but better, not vengeful, but visionary. He did not chase power. He became the kind of man that power followed. This is not just character. This is strategy. You are not here to beg for what is yours. You are here to become what it takes to receive it. And that means building your mind like a fortress. Because the man who cannot control his mind is controlled by everything outside it. The world will test you. It will throw distractions dressed as opportunities. It will sell you quick highs and fast fame. But remember, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow it casts. So choose depth over dopamine. Choose discipline over display. Choose to master the fundamentals instead of chasing the finish line. A man of purpose is not in a rush, because he knows that chasing is rooted in scarcity, while attracting is born of abundance. He does not look to be chosen. He chooses himself. When he walks into a room, he does not need to dominate. His presence speaks for him. His discipline walks ahead of him. He listens more than he talks, because he knows the one who listens owns the conversation. He is not led by his emotions. He feels them, but he does not serve them. He honors them, but he does not obey them. There is a stillness in him that unnerves the insecure, not because he's cold, but because he's focused. People wonder what he's thinking, what his next move is, where his confidence comes from. But the truth is, it comes from within. From nights alone building his foundation, from sacrifices made in silence, from knowing that the path of purpose is not walked by the crowd, but by the committed. When others party, he prepares. When others sleep, he studies. When others quit, he adjusts, because he understands life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. You do not attract what you chase. You attract what you become. So who are you becoming? Are you aligning with the future you envision, or are you running in circles hoping it catches you. A man of purpose doesn't ask the world for permission. He gives himself the assignment, and then he executes. Without applause, without validation, without shortcuts, he does not chase women, fame, money, or status, because he knows those things are attracted to gravity, and gravity is created by mass, by weight, by presence, by character. You want to pull powerful things into your life, then become the kind of man who can hold them, not just catch them. Hold them, because without the structure, the blessing becomes a burden. You want wealth. Build the discipline to manage it. You want love. Build the emotional maturity to sustain it. You want respect. Earn it when no one is watching. That's the blueprint, and the man of purpose follows it, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because his identity isn't built on ease. It's built on endurance. He does not drift with the current. He rows with conviction. He understands that the most attractive force in the universe is not desperation. It is alignment. It is the silent power of knowing who you are and living like it, consistently. This man, he becomes the lighthouse, not the ship. He does not chase. He stands, and by standing, he guides others through the storm. The man who stands still when the world rushes past him in chaos is not idle. He is aligning, sharpening, waiting not in weakness, but with the unshakable posture of one who knows that time bends to those who prepare in silence. This is the rhythm of nature. The seed does not rush to bloom, the river does not chase the ocean, and the sun does not argue with the night. Each arrives in its time because purpose is not hurried. It is revealed. Confucius said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." And indeed, the greatest pursuit is not of others. It is of self. Not to chase admiration, validation, or fleeting attention, but to master the inner world until you become magnetic, until presence speaks louder than words, until you walk into a room and shift the energy without uttering a syllable. This is the paradox of attraction. It is not the loudest who command the most loyalty, but those most rooted in self-awareness. The man who has cultivated his inner garden, whose thoughts are not weeds, but orchards of intention, becomes the oasis others seek when the world grows dry. You don't build attraction by becoming everything. You build it by becoming something. Deeply, undeniably something. Something rare. Something real. Confidence is not manufactured in the mirror. It is forged in solitude, in consistency, in the unwavering decision to do what others delay. It is built in early mornings and quiet refusals, in the small, disciplined choices that no one sees, until one day they all see, and they will. Because confidence is not loud. It is certain. It doesn't posture, it proves. It doesn't shout, it shows. A man of purpose becomes undeniable not because he sought attention, but because he gave attention to his becoming. Do not envy those who sprint for attention. They exhaust quickly. Instead, move like the earth itself, silent, solid, eternal. Let others chase. Let them scream for visibility. While you master the art of invisibility until your results introduce you better than you ever could. History does not remember those who pursued the spotlight. It remembers those who built the stage. Look at Lincoln, who suffered defeat after defeat but never surrendered to bitterness. He did not chase the cheers of men. He built the convictions that would one day require them to listen. Or consider Nikola Tesla, mocked and dismissed, yet still he created in silence. He knew that true power isn't in convincing others. It is in becoming so deeply convinced of your path that others feel foolish for ever doubting you. And when they see that, when they finally turn to notice, it is not because you asked them to, it's because they couldn't look away. So don't rush to be seen. Rush to become worth seeing. Because attraction, real attraction, is not strategy. It is authenticity in alignment with discipline. The world doesn't follow noise. It follows gravity. And the man who stands rooted in vision, values, and self-control becomes a planet of his own. He begins to pull in opportunities, allies, respect, not by force, but by frequency. There is a stillness that makes men nervous. When you do not chase, people wonder what you already possess. When you do not beg, they question what you're building in silence. When you say no, without excuse, without explanation, they feel your strength echo louder than a yes ever could. That stillness is power. That calm is a signal, and it cannot be faked, because life, like people, does not trust the desperate. So be the man who doesn't move until it is time. Be the man who listens longer than he speaks. Be the man whose delay is not hesitation but calculation. Because when you walk with purpose, you do not need to run. Every step becomes a declaration. Every pause becomes a prophecy. And when the moment comes, you don't have to prove anything. You simply arrive, and the world rearranges around you. There is a rhythm to the man who knows himself. Not frantic, not forced, but deliberate. Like a master craftsman carving stone, each motion precise, each moment chosen. And when others wonder why he isn't rushing, why he isn't grasping, he smiles. Because he understands what they do not. Chasing is what you do when you have nothing to offer. Attracting is what happens when you've already become the offering. It is not pride, it is clarity. It is not arrogance, it is intention. This is the man who walks through life like a mountain walks through wind, unmoved, grounded, while others are swayed by trends, approval, applause. He is guided by truth. Confucius called this the superior man, the one who seeks virtue before victory, principle before praise. He knows that what he builds within cannot be stolen, diluted, or destroyed, and that is his advantage, because the man who knows his worth does not barter with it. The world will try to distract you through noise, through urgency, through endless comparisons that make you question the quiet fire inside you. But let them shout. Let them run in circles. Your path is not determined by their chaos. Your path is carved by your character. Let your actions be so aligned with who you are that to betray your purpose would feel like death. That's the level of clarity a man must carry, not for applause, not for validation, but because without it, he becomes a ghost in his own life. Think of the greats, Da Vinci, who studied light and anatomy not to impress, but to understand. Think of Mandela, who endured decades of confinement without cursing his captors, emerging not as a victim, but as a leader forged in the fire of restraint. These men did not chase outcomes. They became so aligned with their cause, so defined by discipline and vision, that history had no choice but to immortalize them. So ask yourself, are you chasing or are you becoming? Because the world moves differently around a man who moves with intention. Doors open before he knocks. People listen before he speaks. Not because of charm, but because of congruence. The internal and external are unified. The message and the man are the same. And that is rare. That is magnetic. We live in a time that worships the spotlight, but forgets the source of light. Do not become another star burning fast for attention. Become the sun, constant, undeniable, a force of nature that gives more than it takes, because when you radiate truth, you don't need to advertise. You illuminate, and that light, that essence, draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right alignment. This is not about doing less. It's about doing deeper. Less scrambling, more sharpening. Less broadcasting, more becoming. And yes, it will feel lonely at times. The man who no longer chases finds himself in a quieter place. But that silence is not emptiness. It is elevation. Because as the noise fades, the signal sharpens. You begin to hear the deeper voice, your own. It tells you to keep building, to stay grounded, to protect your time like treasure, your energy like sacred fire. Because you are not here to convince the world. You are here to create something so true to your essence that the world can't help but notice. Do not rush that process. Refuse the pressure to bloom before your roots are deep. And when others ask where you've been, what you've been doing, you won't need to explain. You'll simply point to the life you've built, to the peace you carry, to the way your presence commands a room without noise. A man of purpose does not chase, because he knows what's his is already on its way, drawn not to his hunger, but to his harmony. When you carry purpose, the entire axis of your being shifts. You no longer act from a place of desperation, but from destiny. You are no longer hunting for scraps of attention or fleeting wins. You are sculpting a legacy. And what builds legacy? Character, not performance, not spectacle. Character, because performance ends when the audience leaves. But character is who you are when no one is watching. It's what you choose when no one will know. And in a world that rewards performance, character becomes rare and therefore powerful. This is why you don't chase. Because when you chase, you tell the world you are lacking. You reinforce the illusion that what you need is outside of you. But when you walk with quiet confidence, when your life is the message, not your words, people take notice. They can't quite name it, but they feel it. That gravity, that stillness. It's the stillness of a man who has met himself in silence, who has bled for his values, who has stood in the middle of storms and refused to bow to convenience. He may not shout, but his discipline is louder than any speech. Consider this: the tree does not chase the sun. It grows toward it. It rises. It expands. It stays rooted while it reaches. So must you rise by growing, not grasping. Your presence should be a result of deep roots, of wisdom earned through time, through patience, through painful refinement. Do not envy the man who is everywhere. Be the man who is anchored, because in a storm, it's not the one flying who survives. It's the one rooted deep enough to bend but never break. And yes, you will be tested. This path demands sacrifice, but let it be the right kind of sacrifice. Not your values, not your self-respect, not your peace, but your distractions, your impatience, your ego. Discipline is not just about routine. It's about alignment. It's about choosing who you want to become over who the world wants you to be. It's rising early not just to grind, but to ground, to remember who you are before the noise of the world tells you who to be. You see, the man who attracts is the man who is consistent. The man who does not say, "I'll try," but who says, "This is who I am," And he proves it, not once but daily, quietly, relentlessly. And people feel that, because energy never lies. In a room full of performers, the authentic man is thunder in silence. He doesn't need to manipulate, to posture, to force outcomes. He simply is. And because of that, he becomes a standard, a mirror. He shows others what is possible, not by shouting it, but by living it. This is how you attract. Not with tricks, not with games, but by embodying a truth so powerful it becomes magnetic. Success, relationships, opportunities, they all respond to alignment, not effort alone, but the kind of effort that springs from clarity. The kind of effort that is rooted in a mission, not just a mood. That is what separates the average from the exceptional. So ask yourself, what are you aligning with? Are you working hard for approval? Or are you working deep for purpose? Because when you move for applause, you chase. But when you move for impact, you attract. The applause follows the impact, not the other way around. You don't need to prove your worth to the world. You need to build it, quietly, consistently, and unapologetically. And one day, without chasing anything, you'll look up and see that everything that is right for you has found its way to your doorstep. Not because you begged for it, but because you built a life that called for it. A man without direction is a leaf in the wind. He may move quickly, he may flutter through moments of beauty, but he lands nowhere. But the man of purpose, he is the mountain, unmoving, unbothered by passing storms, still here when the seasons change. Purpose is not something you find, it is something you decide. And once you decide, the world begins to rearrange itself in response to your conviction. Look around. The most magnetic men in history, Lincoln, Mandela, Confucius himself, they did not chase influence. They embodied conviction. They acted from values that did not sway with popular opinion. And because of that, people followed. Not because they were loud, but because they were true. Truth attracts, always. But truth demands sacrifice. You cannot attract while pretending. You cannot draw in greatness while living in fear. You cannot build a temple with borrowed bricks. So you must strip away what is false. You must let the small self die. Let the need to be liked die. Let the desperation to be seen die. Let the illusion that someone else's approval will save you die. You must become undeniable, not because of how you look or speak, but because of how you live. It's not about perfection. It's about intention, about waking up every day with a compass in your chest. One that always points toward your highest self, even when the road gets hard, especially when it does. There will be moments when the path is dark, when results are slow, when silence feels like failure. But this is when purpose sharpens you. When the fire forges your edge, you are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared to be the kind of man who cannot be moved by chaos, who cannot be bought by comfort, who cannot be distracted by glitter when gold is found in the dirt. Because the man who attracts, he knows the difference between cheap noise and true wealth, between hype and history, between trends and truth. And so he waits, not passively but powerfully, with patience that burns like a slow flame, steady, hot, and unshakable. He waits because he knows what is meant for him will recognize him, not by how loudly he yells, but by the weight of his presence, the way he shows up, the discipline in his habits, the kindness in his strength, the silence in his certainty. This is where the magnetism lies. not in being seen everywhere, but in being missed when you're not there, not in reaching for the world, but in becoming a world others want to enter. So ask yourself again, are you chasing or are you cultivating? Because to chase is to assume it's out there, but to cultivate is to become the kind of man who naturally attracts it in. Become the one whose character makes decisions easier for others. Become the one whose peace shifts the energy of a room. Become the one whose name means something when spoken behind closed doors. This is not about ego. This is about essence. About showing up so fully aligned that nothing you do feels like performance. It just is you. And when you live like that, you won't need to chase anything ever again, because your life itself becomes the invitation. The world is not waiting for another man to chase it. It's waiting for a man who stands still in his truth, still like a lighthouse, not swayed by every wave that crashes, not dimmed by every passing cloud. A man whose presence is direction, not decoration. That is what makes a man unforgettable. Not how loud he moves, but how real he is when everything else becomes noise. You want to attract success, stillness. You want to attract respect, integrity. You want to attract love, wholeness. You want to attract purpose. Silence the outer world long enough to hear the voice within you that never stopped speaking. Because when a man listens deeply to that voice, he no longer needs to be validated by noise. He no longer asks, "Am I enough?" He knows, not because someone told him, but because he met himself in the silence of his own becoming. And this is the part they don't teach you. The greatest shift in your life will not come from chasing anything outside of you. It will come the day you decide, with absolute clarity, that you will no longer betray who you are to get what you want. That decision, that one pivot in your soul, changes everything. From that point forward, you're not looking for alignment. You are alignment. You're not hoping someone sees your worth. You walk in it. You're not waiting for a sign. You become the signal. You stop proving, stop performing, stop pretending. You don't enter rooms wondering who will notice you. You command rooms without saying a word, because your energy has weight and your silence speaks louder than most people's noise. This isn't bravado. This is grounded, ancient, immortal power. The kind that Confucius whispered into his disciples. The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. The superior man, the man of depth, he does not run after success. He becomes the kind of soul that success seeks out, not for his charm, not for his image, but for the unwavering quality of his character. He is deliberate with his time, intentional with his words, precise with his energy, and faithful to his values, even when no one is watching, especially then, because that is where true attraction begins. When the man you are in the dark is no different than the man you are in the spotlight. Consistency, clarity, conviction. That is the man the world remembers. That is the man the world moves for. Not because he asked, but because he became. So do not chase, build, refine, elevate, return. Return to the quiet, ancient strength within you. The part of you that doesn't seek the stage, but always deserves it. And from this place, this still, strong, sacred ground of who you are, you will watch the world begin to shift. People will listen when you speak. Opportunities will find their way to your feet, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your presence became impossible to ignore. This is your reminder. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So become. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easy. But now, when it's hardest. Because that is when it matters most. And when you become the man of purpose, the one who no longer chases, you'll look around and realize it. The life you were once chasing is now chasing you. Because you no longer run, you stand, you hold, you become, and the world, quietly, powerfully, begins to move with you.